Linda's Silent Battle, a journey from low self-esteem to self-worth. Linda had always been the kind of girl people overlooked. She grew up in a home where love was present but unevenly distributed. Her older brother, Ryan, was the family's pride and joy, captain of the basketball team, straight-A student, and the kind of person who could charm his way out of any trouble. Her parents weren't cruel, but their admiration for Ryan was so overwhelming that Linda often felt like a shadow in her own house. Whenever she achieved something, a good grade, a piece of artwork she was proud of, or even just an attempt to speak up, her accomplishments were met with lukewarm responses. "That's nice, Linda," her mother would say absent-mindedly before rushing off to help Ryan with something more important. At school, things weren't any better. Linda was neither bullied nor particularly liked. She simply existed. She was the type of person people forgot to invite to gatherings or conveniently overlooked when forming groups for class projects. She tried to blend in, hoping that if she dressed like the popular girls, they would notice her. But no matter what she did, she remained invisible. Social media made it worse. She would scroll for hours, seeing pictures of classmates at parties she wasn't invited to, reading comments filled with admiration and attention that she had never received. Why was she never enough? Her self-esteem deteriorated slowly but surely. By the time she turned 16, she had given up trying. She stopped raising her hand in class, avoided looking in mirrors, and turned down the rare invitations she did get, assuming they were out of pity rather than genuine interest. That was when she met Jake. Jake was everything Linda wasn't: bold, confident, and completely unconcerned with what people thought of him. He was 2 years older and had a reputation as a troublemaker, but he was the first person who truly saw her. He paid attention to her in a way no one else ever had. He noticed when she changed her hairstyle, commented on the way she bit her lip when she was nervous, and made her feel interesting for the first time in her life. Linda knew he had a dark side. He had been suspended from school for fighting, and there were rumors he stole from stores, but she didn't care. When he spoke, she felt like she mattered. One evening, after a long drive with loud music and laughter, Jake turned to her with a smirk. "You trust me, right?" Linda hesitated before nodding. "Prove it," he said, handing her a small task, a bottle of perfume from a department store. It was nothing big, just a test. She swallowed hard. Was this what it took to keep his attention? Deep down, she knew it was wrong. But another part of her, the part that had been ignored and unseen her whole life, whispered, "If you say no, he'll leave. And then you'll be alone again." A choice that changed everything. The store felt colder than it should have. Linda's palms were clammy as she walked through the aisles, Jake's words replaying in her mind. It was just a small bottle. No one would even notice. She glanced around, making sure no one was watching, and slipped the perfume into her bag. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she walked towards the exit, forcing herself to act normal. But before she could leave, a firm hand gripped her arm. "Miss, I need you to come with me." Her blood ran cold. A security guard stood next to her, his expression unreadable. Linda's entire body froze as he led her to a small back office. Panic clawed at her throat. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. The store manager sat across from her, watching her with a mixture of disappointment and curiosity. "Why did you do it?" he asked. Linda stared at the floor. She didn't have an answer. Was it for Jake? Deep down, she knew it was something more than that. She had stolen because, for the first time, she had a chance to feel like she mattered, to someone, to anyone. When her parents arrived to pick her up, their faces were filled with shock and disappointment. Ryan, of course, had never done anything like this. That night, Linda sat alone in her room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She had spent years feeling worthless, and now she had proof. She was a thief. Someone who had to break the law just to feel seen. Finding herself. Linda didn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the moment she was caught, about how quickly Jake disappeared when she was in trouble. He didn't even text to check on her. That's when she realized he never really cared. The next day, she blocked his number. It hurt, but not as much as the realization that she had been willing to throw everything away for someone who saw her as disposable. She had spent so much time chasing validation from the wrong places that she had forgotten to look for it within herself. Instead of avoiding people, she made small efforts to connect with those who truly cared. She joined a community theater group, something she had always wanted to do but had been too afraid to try. Standing on stage, speaking in front of an audience, was terrifying at first. But for the first time, she felt heard. She started journaling, writing down her thoughts, her fears, and most importantly, the things she liked about herself. At first, the list was short, but as the weeks passed, it grew longer. She also began seeing a counselor. At first, she was reluctant, but therapy helped her understand where her self-esteem issues stemmed from. She learned that she wasn't alone in feeling this way and that her worth wasn't determined by other people's attention. Months passed, and little by little, Linda transformed. She started dressing for herself, not for the approval of others. She spoke up in class, and when she wasn't invited somewhere, she reminded herself that her value wasn't defined by social events. She wasn't perfect. Some days, self-doubt crept in, but she had learned a crucial lesson. Self-worth isn't about being seen by others. It's about seeing yourself. By the time she graduated, Linda was no longer the girl who blended into the background. She was someone who had found her voice, her strength, and most importantly, herself. And for the first time in her life, that was enough.